Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So tonight I'm going to be talking a little bit about something that's you'll hear people talking about this occasionally, particularly in today's era where people are talking about the ups and downs of relationships, divorce, child support, paternity test, all these type of things. Um, I don't know, it was a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, that American actress Halle Berry made headlines when, I guess a court ruled how much she was going to be paying for her second divorce, or how much she was going to be paying to, move on past a second relationship where her and her male partner went their separate ways. So it looks like now she's going to be, between the two men, she's going to be paying $16,000 per month in either alimony or child support, right? Yeah, it's a lot of money, and it's not like I don't know what Halle Berry's net worth is these days. Have to look that up. But suffice it to say, she's not as popular an actress as she was, say, 15, 20 years ago. You're going to be taken care of, be connected to your exes until these children are adults. That can get kind of pricey. We're looking at $16,000 a month. So what's that, like $200,000 a year, something like that? That's kind of steep. It also makes me remember that Mary J. Blige was ordered to pay her ex-husband $30,000 a month in I guess alimony, for her divorce with what's his name, Martin Kendu Isaacs. So where I'm going today is the news now. This is not new news anymore, because it really broke sometime in August, about a month and a half ago or so. And popular Afro-Brazilian singer Iza, recently she announced the end of her marriage with her husband and music producer, Sergio Santos. And so, some of the details are just now really starting to come out. She's spoken publicly about this divorce a few times now. And so it says, with fear of a public scandal, popular Afro-Brazilian singer she makes a 3 million real deal with her ex-husband in divorce settlement. Okay. So this is a picture of Isa here at the left, and her now ex-husband, Sergio Santos. I guess, when they were together. Um, as we know, divorces can get pretty ugly, particularly if there's children involved. I don't think these two had any children. I didn't hear anything about her being pregnant. So I'm almost quite sure that she didn't have any kids. But, every time I hear about celebrity divorces, and I see some of the figures that come out about how, the richer partner in the marriage, how much they're going to be, doling out to their ex, spouse. And, with all this talk about how divorce proceedings work, child support, visitation for children and these types of things, it takes me back about, what's that, 1987, I think, 13, what's that, about 38 years ago, maybe 36 years ago. My first real exposure to understanding, okay, you get a divorce, it's not just, you separate and that's it. If you have assets or whatever, then things can get pretty ugly. So the first time I had really heard about this was in Eddie Murphy's 1987 stand-up movie, Raw. And he was just talking about how he saw on a tabloid newspaper that, the popular talk show host Johnny Carson was supposed to have to give up half of his assets in a divorce settlement. So I didn't know anything about that. I was young at the time. Just like, wow, I didn't know, the court set it up that way. So obviously the discussion has been that, most women obviously don't want to give something up like that. I've been hearing about, some of the laws being reversed in Florida, and there's a lot of people who are upset about this. But I've always been the person to ask the question. Eddie Murphy said this in his stand-up. It's like, okay, if somebody has $100 million and that person made that 100 million by themselves, I mean, should the partner who didn't earn the 100 million and perhaps didn't have anything to do with it, should that person be entitled to 50 million of that 100 million? And obviously, coming from the women's side, it's always been a thing like, yeah, she should get that. But nobody ever thinks about it like, obviously, most of the time when it's a divorce settlement, it's probably going to be the man who's going to be paying, coming out of his pockets with the assets that he has. If forced to get out of the house, he'll have to share, part of his 401k, whatever it might be. And because usually it is the man who's going to be paying alimony, it's like women don't have a problem with that. But then you flip it around, be like, okay, well, nowadays a lot of women have some very high power careers. So the question is going to be, okay, well, if the shoe is on the other foot, do you still support that? That should be the question. And just those two examples I just gave, Halle Berry and Mary J. Blige. There's others that I could name, but those are suffice for what the point is. As long as, I don't know, if it's a situation where 90% of the men, 90% of people who get divorced is going to be the man paying the alimony in that case. Obviously, I don't think women are going to speak out and say they're not going to really admit that this is just not fair. But when the shoe is on the other foot and you see women having to pay their husbands alimony, some outrageous, settlements and alimony, maybe people will take a second look at this. So then, looking at the situation with Isa, let me just go ahead and talk about this story real quick because this is really a short story. I never like to get too much into anybody's personal business because I don't know. Obviously, I don't know Isa. I don't know her ex-husband. I don't know what really went down there. Whenever there's a messy divorce, there's always going to be two sides. Some people say three. There's his side, there's her side, and then there's the truth. So I can't comment on that. I'm going to just go through this material and we'll get a little, we'll get some details about what happened here. So this article is called Afraid of a Public Scandal, Singer Isa Makes 3 Million Real Deal with Her Ex-Husband. Today's story is courtesy of the Contigo and the Metropolis websites. And so before I even get into this, because I know that even though Isa's star is rising, a lot of people still probably haven't heard of her outside of Brazil. There's numerous Brazilian singers who are trying to take their music to an international audience now. And, with the way music is streamed these days, that it's not just American artists who are getting sales and prominence and popularity, fame outside of the country where they're from. Because with streaming outlets like Spotify these days, there's a lot of people around the world who are actually listening to Brazilian music. So, obviously, Izas is nowhere near as popular as, say, somebody like Beyonce or even, who are some of the Americans that's out there these days, Cardi B or whoever. But Isa's carved out quite a career for herself. I remember it had to have been about, I don't know how many years she's been out, maybe 5 or 6 years or so. And she started off singing songs, just, singing cover versions of popular international and Brazilian hits on YouTube. Next thing you know, she was signed up, and here it is 5, 6, 7 years later, and she's one of the biggest stars coming out of Brazil now. And I've been really concerned about Isa's image. When she first came out, I know a lot of us were happy to see somebody like her make it big, because it was like, Brazil has this stigma against brown skinned people. It's like the lighter you are on the skin tone scale, the more successful you're probably going to be. And so to see a clearly black woman, clearly brown skinned woman, to see her make it in the pop music world, it was something that everybody was cheering for, myself included. I like the girl can sing pretty well. She puts on a pretty strong show, in her concerts. She makes a lot of oftentimes provocative music videos, but and that's where I started having a problem with Isa, because as much as we hear, among Black Brazilian women, there's always been an outcry against the hypersexualization of Black women in Brazil. So what do you do with somebody like Isa who, she's a good singer and she's an attractive woman, but at what point do you say she's sexualizing herself too much? Because, I follow her Instagram page, and it's like these days, it seems like I see more of her with like skimpy clothes on than her being fully clothed. It's just like it seems like every video. I could be exaggerating. I don't see all of her videos. They just pop up on my timeline. And I'm just like, why is it that every time I see a video of Isa, it's always like she's either near naked or just like half naked? Yeah, and I understand, it's probably, management is pushing an image of her to make her the most successful because in today's pop music world, women have to show skin in order to stay relevant. And it's just, I think it's kind of a shame because the question is, how far do you go? It's I've seen people, you see these stories on the internet of people years later after they get married, they have children. Are these the images that they want their children to see? And I've heard people who usually have a feminist stance that says, why are you trying to police her sexuality? And what I'm saying, okay, I'm just, my question is, how far does it go before? Because I've heard people argue with me and say that, well, if she's doing this herself, she's not being hypersexualized. Like, okay, is that true? At what point does a person start sexually exploiting themselves? It's one thing, it's easy. Whoever's making the decisions for her appearance and her music videos, she could easily put a stop to that. You know, how far do you have to go? Why do you always have to be naked in front of the camera? That's just a question. Is it somebody else making these decisions and Isa just going along with it? Or did she just, she signed on, like, I want to be a big pop star. This is what I have to do, you know? But at what point do you take responsibility and say, no, it's whether I'm doing this or my management is asking me to do this, I'm going overboard and I'm starting to, sexualize myself. I can no longer point the finger at the media and say that they're sexualizing me when I'm the one in control of my career where I can decide what I will and will not wear. Anyway, it's just, to me, I just feel like it's a shame that I see Isa going that way. And I have to ask the same thing. How far do you go in terms of exploiting or taking advantage of your own sexuality, right? Anyway, let me get into this story. So Isa and Sergio Santos separated in 2022 with a lot of discretion about what would have motivated the end of the relationship of more than 4 years. Before the divorce, Santos threatened to put the singer's name in court on the grounds that he was responsible for her career. Afraid of a possible scandal, Isa paid 3 million reais to her ex. Okay. The voice of the hit song Ginga felt diminished when she was with Santos, so she wanted to end the marriage. The artist's decision was not well received by her now ex. He initially demanded that Isa pay 10 million reais for having worked with her during the period that they were together. Happier times, Isa and husband Sergio Santos at the couple's wedding. According to the UOL website, the columnist Lucas Pasin, the ex-husband Sergio Santos, this guy right here, he accepted 3 million reais to keep quiet and not take the case to court. The music producer would also have taken belongings that were bought by the couple, such as a fancy travel bag, among other expensive items. What's funny is that I was in a WhatsApp group of some Black Brazilian men some years ago, and they were discussing how they saw this guy. It's like, okay, is this a black guy? Is this a white guy? Should he just be labeled as a mestizo? The funny thing about it is, sometimes you see white guys, and I don't mean, I've said for a while there should be a category that says, mixed white. Right. Because some white people are not, that have that purely very pale skin, Caucasian look. Some, Europeans, obviously from Southern Europe, have a darker complexion, and they have features that say, well, it's like comparing like a Sicilian to, somebody from Great Britain. And some of those people, you could just look at them and say, well, You're not as white as a Brit, for example. So some of the guys in the WhatsApp group had taken old pictures of Sergio Santos, again, this guy here, and they show pictures of him without the beard. And it was just amazing to me how something as simple as a beard can change how a person looks racially. In this picture, you can imagine him being black, or if you prefer brown or mixed or whatever, but you can see, you would say this guy is probably of African ancestry, right? But then there were pictures of him without the beard and he looked closer to being white. It was just really strange when I saw that. I have to go through and find some of those old pictures because it was really intriguing. The debate was going back and forth like, okay, you guys see him as black. Okay, well, look at these pictures before he grew his beard out. And, you had to look like, that's the same guy. Anyway, Izas' close friends told the journalist that their relationship was shaken months before the divorce. The Voice Kids judge lived in a toxic relationship in which she didn't feel free to be herself. This was reflected, for example, in her clothes and attitudes in public. I'm sure you all are familiar with the Kids Voice program. They have an edition of it in Brazil. Well, just kids go on to the show and, they try to prove how well that they can sing. It's, the reality show, First you had the Voice Brazil, now you have the Voice Kids Brazil. Okay. And Isa was one of the judges on this show. An old video circulating on social media is pointed out by Isa's fans as a distress call from her. In the images, the former couple appears together while the singer drinks with friends and laughs. Santos, again, her now ex-husband, scolded Isa in front of everyone and left her visibly unpleased. Okay, another picture from happier times. In an interview with the Global TV network Sunday Evening News Journal Fantástico on Sunday, August 30th, the star, who is contracted by Global Television Network, revealed that she had already felt invalidated by someone, but she didn't name names. That person seems to take care of you, but in the end, you see that you stop being you to be that other person or to be with that other person, she lamented. Okay. You realize that that person benefits from your pains, your scars, your insecurities, your success. Everything that happened in the separation was crucial for the creation of this new album, added Isa. Speaking of her the new album that just dropped a little while ago, I think it's called Afro-Gicci. That's how you say it. Isa spoke highly of her new work as a singer and gave indications that she was inspired by the old relationship. During the attraction, she warned that she was rediscovering herself after the end of her marriage to her now ex-husband and producer Sergio Santos. So anyway, another thing I wanted to take a look at as I was speaking about, the high cost of divorce and child support and alimony of, say, Mary J. Blige and Halle Berry, to point out that according to some sources, this is the Fordia Economica website, and it estimates that Isa's fortune is somewhere between 20 to 30 million reais, and she earns a monthly salary of about 1 to 2 million reais per month. So, if he was going to take her to court and ask for 10 million, that could reasonably look like between half and a third of her estimated wealth. So she really kind of got off by, being able to offer 3 million and walk away from the marriage, again, I can't make any judgments about Isa. I don't know if we were to talk to both sides, they would both have a different story about what happened in their marriage, right? I would, my whole point in discussing this is that we do need to take a look at, child support laws, divorce laws, paternity laws, and these type of things, because let's just be real. Again, women will look at this as advantageous when they're married to a guy who has a lot of money and they can get up to half of his income. Whereas if it's on the other side, I'm quite sure most women would not agree with that. Like, hey, I'm the breadwinner here. Why should he be able to get half of my money or pay me, $25,000, $30,000 per month? I'm quite sure how would you feel about it? I would always say that, there should be an amicable split. There should be a fair split. And when you look and you see that somebody gets $8,000 in child support, like, $8,000 in child support. That's what is that, like $96,000 a year? Does it really take $96,000 to raise a child? I'm just saying. I mean, people will say, well, the child should have the same access to a certain lifestyle as the parent who's wealthy. Yeah, I agree with that to a degree. I just feel like some of the payouts that people get from alimony and child support is just ridiculous. So here you have an example of a Black Brazilian female singer who had to dish out some money to walk away from her marriage. So I'm saying, how do you all feel about this? I'm kind of curious. Okay, people don't have a problem with it when it's the man giving up a lot of his money, but when it's the woman giving up a lot of her money, okay, well, the shoe's on the other foot. How do you feel about that? Anyway, um, just a quick story I wanted to drop today. Curious to know what your thoughts are. I've read about some pretty expensive divorces in Brazil as well as in the United States. So you can add this one to that list of expensive, separations. Maybe I think she got off. If you really think about it, like if he was asking for 10 million reais and she walked away offering 3 million, and you could say she actually got a deal for that, right? But anyway, again, how do you guys feel about this particular story? What do you think about divorce laws, child support, alimony laws? Should they be changed? We see some inklings of this down in Florida right now. I'm sure you've heard about some of it. A lot of women are really upset about what Governor Ron DeSantis is doing. So, curious to know what your thoughts are. Drop a comment in the comment section. Like this video, share this video. Consider subscribing to this channel. Um, Click on the notification bell so that you'll get latest updates when I put up new videos. And with that said, I'm going to end this video here and ask you all to come and check out my next video.